Hello and welcome. Now, if you like your comedy dripping with pithy political satire and oh so clever social comment, trigger warning, my guest today is not for you. Look away now if you're not a fan of belly laughs, pratfalls and more gags than a politician has promises. He's unashamedly old. Unashamedly old school. Just a genuinely funny man who's won the West many times and is now back in the saddle for his latest tour, promising music, mirth and Andy Ford.
I was in the art gallery and there was a bloke standing next to us saying, miserable, he said, I suppose they call this modern art, do they? I think it's disgusting. I suppose they call this modern art, do they? I said, no, lover, they call that a mirror.
And the great man is with us now. Andy, how are you doing? Good to see you.
Lovely to be with you, Steve.
No, it's always a tonic. Actually, you just make me laugh, you know, and that
Thank
is,
you.
I don't know whether, you know, is that the sign of a true comedian, a true comic? Funny people, because there are fewer and fewer of those around today.
You know, as I get older, if I can make people laugh with my clothes on, that is a bonus.
Yeah, because I mentioned that sort of old school, and what I meant by that was the sort of the Les Dawsons, you know, or the Bruce Forsyth's, more of a presenter, that sort of thing. You know, the Morecambe and Wise, Tommy Coopers.
Well, this is all the stuff I grew up with.
Yeah, didn't have to do anything, but just people laughed at them.
I loved them. Brilliantly technical, fabulous comedians. And I suppose you could say, because my comedy isn't, I don't do satire and politics and that sort of thing, really. I don't swear on stage.
Yeah.
So you could say my comedy's got a nostalgic feel, but in a modern setting. I like to think, particularly in Panto and stuff, the gags are relevant and current and of the culture of the day. So it's just that, I suppose you do what you love, and I loved Eric and Ernie and Tommy Cooper, and that's the stuff I grew up with.
Well, you've been learning since the grand old age of 12. I think you got.
I did my first.
Was that your
gig.
first professional gig?
I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you what happened.
Yeah.
Right. So my dad was a postman.
Yeah.
And in Exeter on Christmas Eve, all the postmen would go to this social club at Alphington in Exeter and have a drink, because there's only one delivery on a Christmas Eve, and they'd have a little drink because they had a couple of days off. And one of the postmen played guitar. He was called Les Chadwick. He was fantastic. Reminded me of Lonnie Donegan a lot. Anyway, so my parents had got me, my uncle had got me a banjo, and my dad had taught me all the old songs. So they said, bring Andrew down and let him sing along with Les. And Dad said, do you want to do it? Yeah, we didn't drive, so his mate pulled up in a car, took me to... Anyway, I only knew a few chords, but I sang some of the songs I knew, and I sang along with wonderful Les, and all the postmen loved it. And there was a guy from the club watching it and said, do you want to do a show in the club tonight?
Yeah.
And I got paid £3 on the 24th of December 1969, the year my wife was born, by the way. That's how old I am.
Yeah.
And that was my first gig, and from then I started doing loads and loads of gigs, and eventually I became a singer in a dance band, because I grew up with singing in the family, and my grandparents, my granny Mogford loved to sing, and my granny Willis sang as well. My dad loved, he was a pub singer. So I grew up with all that. I entered talent contests with my cousin Stephen, who went on to be a detective. And we had a great name, the Junior Cousins. I rock and roll this out.
Yeah.
So I did all that singing, joined a dance band, joined a bigger dance band, formed my own dance band eventually, and then if someone broke a string, I'd fill in with a gag.
Yeah.
And eventually the comedy took over, realised I was doing most of the work myself, went solo.
Yeah. But it sounds as if there was this is a lifetime. But it was happening quickly, wasn't it? Because you went on to the big talent show.
Yeah,
Jonathan Ross. I don't know whatever happened to him, mind you. But,
He's a good boy, Jonathan. Well, right, let's tell you how that happened.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'd got, and I was
that was
running,
comedy, was it? You were doing for that?
just comedy, yeah. But I was working holiday camps, and in 1991, I met my now wife. And I was performing, and she said to me, she was running a dance school who were performing from up London, where they were down in Cornwall doing some shows. Anyway, so she was watching me, and she said, "You're 34 years old." I said, "I am." She said, "Why are you dressing in a tuxedo and a troubadour hat like a 50-year-old cabaret performer?" And I said, "Well, because everyone does." And she said, "Do you like the gags you're doing?" I thought, what's going on here? I said, "Well, not particularly, but they're gags that everyone does."
Yeah.
And she said, "I've got an idea." I went, "All right." She said, "Why don't you do the things that you think are funny, and why don't you dress like you want to dress?" So I reinvented myself, and a lot of my comedy, in fact, if you see me in pantomime today or whatever, you'll realize that I took the physicality of a child and placed it in an adult's body. If a child shrugs his shoulders or is disappointed, you accept it. But when you see an adult do it, an adult goes, "No, not fair. It's ridiculous." So I took that
simple
as
Simon types.
I took that as a style, and I reinvented myself. And I love surreal comedy. I grew up listening to the Goons, and I'm sorry, I'll read that again.
Take us back to that big talent show then. What was that?
Well, I was just getting to that.
What happens there?
So
come on.
I recreated it all, my comedy, and the agents stopped giving me work because I wasn't a safe comedian anymore. I was doing what I believed in. But here's how we get to the big talent show. My wife made a little video up of me being ridiculous with the body language and the silly surreal stuff, and the big talent show went, "Come in and audition." So, because I reinvented myself and went 2 years without work to try and just keep it there, I got on that. I didn't win the big talent show. I did really well. And from that, I was one of their favourites from the series, and I got the Royal Variety Show from there.
Was that Nigel Lithgow?
Nigel Lithgow was producer.
Nasty Nige, was he? Was he one of those
lovely,
judges
Nigel.
back in the day? But that was his image,
he was lovely.
It?
And Brian Rogers was on it as, I think, associate producer, or his choreographer on that. Brian Rogers Dancers. Lovely man. I've been so lucky. I've worked with some wonderful people. Neil Shand, when I did the Des O'Connor shows, Neil Shand, who wrote for Cooper and Les Dawson and all that, he wrote a couple of bits for me.
Well, hang on, we'll come on to that in a sec, because and we've got other people coming on. Because we are back in the saddle. We are going to be talking about that, folks, in just a second, and what this big show is. But just on the Royal Variety, because that is that's the pinnacle of maybe many people's career, isn't it?
Yeah.
To get on to that. When you heard you were on it and you were going to be appearing on it with the cast of international stars, what was Andy Ford thinking at that time?
I was thinking, this is what I dreamt about from being a little kiddie. And it happened. And I was standing on the stage, and Celine Dion gave me a little wave. I was standing next to the Spice Girls. I was on stage for the last live performance of the two Ronnies. I met Des O'Connor, who really liked what I did. And I met the Queen. Her Majesty was lovely to me. And this is exactly her words to me when she allowed me to shake her hand. She said, and I quote, "That's so funny." And I only heard the word funny. She could have said, "You weren't very funny."
You can hardly go, "Sorry, can we have that just so everybody else can hear?"
Smiled. My wife was in the audience, and she was watching Duke of Edinburgh and Her Majesty, and they were laughing and watching me, and she watched them, not me. And so it went great. After the show, Nigel Lithgow came up and said, "When you see this on TV, you're gonna love it." And I got cut out of it. But on the cutting room floor, because the show was too long. So Stephen Mulhern, who's now Mr. Saturday Night, and myself, we were both cut for the show because of time.
So how do you I mean, you can sort of look back in a way and laugh at it now.
I was devastated.
How do you feel? You make it, you do a good job. It could have been an instant launch to major stardom. But how did you feel when that was cut? And did you even know, or did you watch the show?
My manager couldn't even ring me to tell me. I was in digs in London rehearsing for Peter Pan, a show that was going into Bournemouth, and we actually did a week at the Bristol Hippodrome, which is the first time I'd ever played the Bristol Hippodrome. He couldn't even ring me. My wife rang me, and she was crying, and I thought, what is going on? And she told me I was devastated. As we were driving back from somewhere, Joe Pasquale, who was also on the show, rang me 6 times on my mobile phone, and Shell would say, he's driving, Joe. I just want to know he's all right. Is he all right? He'll get through it. Jimmy Cricket wrote me a lovely letter saying, you're a great comic. My family loves you. You'll come back for it. Anyway, so when we were in Bournemouth, I wanted to walk into the ocean and keep walking. I was really devastated. Never show it when I'm on stage.
This was a real down, was it?
It was one of the worst things that ever happened in my life. And then someone brought a newspaper in, and Bob Monkhouse was talking about me in The Sun and saying what a good future of comedy I was. And then Des O'Connor was on Steve Wright in the Afternoon saying, Andy Ford's great, I'm going to have him on the show. Nothing happened for a while, but eventually Des had me on the show and back on the show. So from the lowest of the low, you just keep believing and you keep doing it.
Isn't it funny that sometimes something like that will happen and actually it's got a better effect in the end? I mean, more people are talking to you perhaps than, I don't know, otherwise might have. You know, it's
well,
good came out of it.
Wonderful saying that my wife told me is to wish for the best possible outcome. And then if something that you want to happen doesn't happen, it could still be the best possible outcome. Because if you'd have got what you thought you wanted, you'd have missed out on what's coming around the corner. So it takes the pressure off. I was gutted, but within a year I was on stage in Blackpool for summer season. I was on the Des O'Connor show, and it all did that again.
Not once, twice. It's always nice to be invited back, actually, isn't it? Some of those shows.
I think I did 2 Des O'Connor Tonights, which was his prime show with Ben Elton, Cliff Richard,
and that launched so many people, didn't it?
It was fantastic. And then I did Des and Mel, did about 4 shows for Des and Mel. So all the TVs came in, so when I thought the door had closed, actually I went round the corner and another door opened. And look, I'm still doing it,
You
mate.
are still doing it, and you were back. You call this back in the saddle. What is that coming out of COVID? Because you've done other stuff during COVID. I mean, what do you mean by back in the saddle, Andy?
Right.
What's the...
So when COVID hit, no one could go and see shows. And the performers couldn't perform. Now, I like to write material and change it. So Back in the Saddle went out in the spring, but it's going back out again this autumn, and there'll be some new stuff in there because I love writing. Well, I had no one to perform to, so I panicked and I thought I've got to perform. I can't not perform for months and months on end. So I started doing a live Facebook comedy show every Sunday night at 8:30 or something, and we had, I think I did about 10 weeks of it, over 100,000 people tuning in to watch it live.
We'll see a little clip of that in half a sec.
Oh, just right. No laughter, by the way. I learned a technique from Des O'Connor on the Royal Variety Show, where if there wasn't a big laugh, you'd hold it for a while, and then they'd put a laugh track in on TV. But that worked perfectly for me on the Facebook Live, because I couldn't hear any laughter. So I told Joe...
Sorry, just to show people, you'd pause a little bit as if the laughter is all there, and then they can put some of that in. You're giving away the secrets here.
No, because if I keep talking and they're laughing, they'll miss some of it. So what I did, when I did a tag, I'd look just into my phone and give them a chance.
All right.
Have you finished laughing? And then carry on. That's the only way I could do it. But I learned a lot because I wrote some material that's now in this show that I wrote for the live shows. And we ran for 10 weeks, and it overtook my life, but it gave me something to do. No money. It's not always about the money. It was about being a comedian and keep doing it.
Self-esteem and doing what you do.
Yeah.
And here's a little bit actually coming up with what you do, because I love the way you look at age, Andy. You know, you're philosophical. You know, you talk earlier on about a modern twist, because you do observe life and you've got that little take on life as well. So let's just have a little look here. First of all, this is Dad Dancing, and it's a little piece that I picked of some of your stuff that I particularly like, and I think it just hits the point. Let's just have a little look at this and see what we think.
Now, mate, let me tell you, if I knew back then what I know now, I could have showed them ladies how. Still got it, just check me out. I'll move a little and twist and shout. You need a man of experience to treat you good. No hustle. A man so smooth and at his peak with just the upper muscle. Not the boss, but the man. Burning up the floor. Dad dancing. Yes, we're really stepping out. Dad dancing. We're cool and there's no doubt. Look at me, 'cause I'm smoking. I'm broken. I'm dripping with desire. I'm in the groove. Still got the moves. Gonna set this floor on fire.
I love that. I really
Thank
do.
you.
I mean, it's so scarily accurate as well, Andy. It really is.
I've hit that stage in my life when things don't quite work as well as they used to.
Tell me about it.
So all I can do is write comedy songs about it, write comedy about it, but songs as well, because that's one of my trades. Growing up was the singing and the songwriting. So now I'm putting all those elements together, wrapped up in a bow of old age, and producing songs about midlife crisis and stuff like that. And I, you know, and it's quite nice when you do comedy as a slightly older person. Now, yes, I am a slightly older person, because times have changed. Years and years ago, you were put on the scrap heap at the age of 60. Now you keep going. And technology is helping. Did you know, as a help for the older person, Stainless Stairlift have now introduced the Stainless Stairlift Turbo. Absolutely fabulous. It goes so quick, you get to the top of the stairs before you've had a chance to forget while you're going up there. And it comes down even quicker, so cross your legs so you don't get a wedgie. 2 jokes. That was 2. You're welcome.
Two wedged in there. Well done. Well done. And these are all in the new show. Well, I mean, not necessarily those are in the new show, but you've got a whole load of new material.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff I've written about older age has gone into this tour. But hopefully everyone's going to have a great time. It's funny, you'll laugh, and there's song and dance, which I grew up with. So if you like, I brought a variety element to this tour, and I got some fantastic, a fantastic singer, number one, and brilliant girl dancers.
And, well, Francesca, your singer, is going to be here in a second or two.
That's
going
good.
to be joining us.
She's
We're going to have a chat with
fantastic.
Francesca. You mentioned the dancers, and they're brilliant as well. Oh, I have to say as well, folks, that there's going to be a very special announcement from you, isn't there, towards the end of the show? So are we allowed to? Can we build this up?
Let's tease it. I shall be revealing something for the first time on this one-to-one with Steve le Fevre. Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. You won't go anywhere anyway, because, as I say, let's have a look at this. As a scoop, a live tester for the Back into the Saddle are with Andy Ford. We've got Francesca coming up with us very shortly indeed. But just to give you a taste of that, here are the Sorella Dancers. Have a look at this.
Fabulous.
Yeah, there we are, the Sorella Dancers. You'll be seeing a bit more of them live in the studio in just a second or two, as indeed you will Francesca Carly, who joins us now.
Hi.
On the high still, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah, are
having
you looking
me.
forward to the big tour with
I
Andy?
am. Yes, I am. I'm really excited, yeah.
Yeah, and what's he like to work with? I mean, you tell us the truth here, Francesca.
Careful now, girl.
He's a bundle of joy to work with. He's so funny.
Yeah.
Really funny.
Stop it, a bit more.
So much banter between the two of us.
How did you link up with Andy in the first place?
Oh my goodness me. So my dad,
Yeah.
bless him, he is a good fan of Andy, and I used to go with him to watch his tours, and I actually knew Andy through my dad. So that's how I got to
Your
know
dad
Andy.
sounds like a bit of a character to me,
Oh, he is.
Francesca. You
He's
know, I mean,
funny.
I've known you for 10 minutes, but you know, I know the entire family history now. But your dad, you graduated from the Bristol Institute of Performing Arts,
Yes.
as did your dad
He
3
did.
years ago, in the same class, the same year.
Yes, in the same
How
class.
does that work? And what was that like?
Obviously, it's a bit of a surprise.
What, that he was there?
Yeah, but it's a memory that I will always remember,
Yeah.
and I treasure it really, because it's odd. You don't really go to a university with your child, really,
No.
or your dad.
Not normally.
No, not normally.
Particularly performing arts as well.
But it's something that we both love
Yeah.
and we both enjoy, and to perform by the side of him
Yeah.
and graduate with him is,
Yeah.
like I said, a memory I will always treasure.
And he's off doing the cruise ships.
He
isn't
is. I'm really proud of him. He's done so well since graduating, and he's my inspiration.
It's
as
supposed
well.
to be the other way around. Your
No, I
dad's
know.
supposed to be, I'm proud of Francesca, she's
yeah.
doing well, you're proud of which is great. And your mum is in the business as
She
well.
is,
She's a Shirley Bassey
She
tribute
is.
act.
Yeah, she does all the Diamonds Are Forever and.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
And I worked with her years and years ago, probably when
Yeah.
this one was a little nipper.
Yeah. You gave Francesca her start, didn't you, walking across the stage? Was it Drink Up Thy Cider, was it? What
Well,
was
she'll
it?
probably tell you the story better than me, but her dad, Julian, who we've just mentioned, was playing part of John Miles in Drink Up Thy Cider, where I gave him the role. And he said to me, if you need a backing vocalist, singer, my daughter's really good. And I said, bring her along, take it away.
So yeah, that's correct what Andy just said.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he was like, do you want to come to a rehearsal? And I was like, well, I'm not really a part of it, but I don't mind coming and having a look. So
Yeah,
I came and sat down, and then Andy came over and was like, oh, hi, how are you? I hear you sing. And he was like, oh, do you want to get up for a minute? And I was like, okay. And I was a bit confused. And he went, right, imagine you've got a board in your hands up above your head, and he said just strut across that stage as sexy, literally glamour.
In my
everything.
defense, I'll explain this in a minute.
Am I explaining it? But yeah, he's just like on a beat, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so I did.
Yeah.
I was a little bit nervous, but I just did it. And at the end, he went, you're hired. And I was like,
Brilliant.
okay. And then he was like, you can do some backing vocals.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did
Well-
some backing
And she
vocals
was
as well.
brilliant. She was so good. I mean, the walking with the sign was as the milkmaid to introduce the different
Yeah.
scenes of the show, and the back and forth was great. So good that when we brought Drink Up the Cider back, I wrote a part especially for Francesca, Rosie the barmaid,
Well-
to act and sing, and she was brilliant in
Well-
it. And that's why she's on this tour.
I know, and I'm dying to see her. And the excitement had nearly dropped my clipboard, my famous clipboard. We're going to see you singing live in the
Yes.
studio, Francesca.
Brilliant.
So if you could just make your way over to
Lovely.
our performance area. Thank you very
Thank you
much
very
indeed.
much.
And get yourself ready. And get the dancers ready as well, because this is from Back in the Saddle, the big tour with Andy Ford. It is Francesca Carly and the Sorella Dancers and their unique rendition of Proud Mary. Francesca, take it away.
Left a good job in the city, working for the man every night and day. But I never lost 1 minute of sleeping, worrying about the way that things might have been. Big wheels keep on turning, proud Mary keep on burning, and we're rolling, rolling, yeah, rolling on the river. I cleaned a lot of planes in Memphis. I pumped a lot of tan down in New Orleans, but I never lost 1 minute of sleeping, worrying about the way that things might have been. Big wheels keep on turning, proud Mary keep on burning, a job in the city, working for a man every night and day. But I never lost 1 minute of sleeping, worrying about the way the bills might happen. Big wheels keep on turning, brown berry keep on burning, and we're rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. We're rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. All right. I cleaned a lot of places in Memphis. I pumped a lot of tang down in New Orleans. But I never saw the good side of the city till I hitched a ride on the riverboat. Big wheels keep on turning, brown berry keep on burning, and we're rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. We're rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. If you come down to the river, I bet you're gonna find some people who live. You don't have to worry if you got the money. People on the river are happy to give. Big wheels keep on turning, brown berry keep on burning, and we're rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. We're rolling, rolling, rolling on the river.
Whoa, excellent. Well done, Francesca.
Brilliant, Fran.
Absolutely good. Did she do you proud?
Oh, she's wonderful.
Mary.
I mean, she's such an asset to this show. I mean, and so are our wonderful dancers. Just fantastic. Brilliant girls.
Yeah, I know. And when you've got this, you know, you with your high energy, you've got the dancers, the singers. I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it? You haven't got time to breathe. When you're watching these shows, you're just immersed. It's just the high energy.
I just want to give people value for money, and I want to give people a really good night. I want you to laugh. I want you to sing. I want you to look at the spectacle and walk away thinking, what a night that was.
Yeah. Do you know something? We've got through an entire sort of, I don't know how long we've been chatting, Andy, but we haven't mentioned Panto yet. Have we? Have we mentioned Panto?
We haven't mentioned. Well, I think we mentioned it, but we haven't mentioned this year specifically.
Oh, okay. What's happening this year? You having a rest? Nothing happening. Forget about Panto this time.
This year, I can reveal
Here we go.
on One-to-One with Steve le Fevre that I will be performing for the 10th year at the Bristol Hippodrome in Cinderella as Buttons with the magnificent Craig Revel-Howard there.
Wow.
That's happening this year.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's out there now.
I'm excited about it.
You are. Have you ever met Craig? Have you worked with him before in the past?
Normally, I make friends with the people when we do a launch. You know, we have pictures taken at the theatre and all that. So I look forward to. I've heard he's a wonderful guy, and a very close friend of mine was his dresser for a while. She's lovely, and she said he's fantastic, and she's told him that he's going to get on well with me. So hopefully we'll have a lovely
What's it
time.
like? You know, when you've got somebody like Judge Rinder last year, he's taken the politicians apart now, isn't he? He's sort of like changing and evolving
He's such a
as he
lovely
goes
guy.
on. He is. He's very talented as well. But when you've got somebody like Craig, for the first time, you haven't worked with them, and Panto is all about just giving it all. Is it awkward at the first read through? Is it kind of everybody sort of testing the water a little bit?
It's all about professionalism and having respect for the talents that other people bring to the table, because not everyone's going to stand there and get all the laughs. But if we all did the same thing, it wouldn't be pantomime. So you have to appreciate the skills of other people. And you know, obviously we all want to shine performing, but it really is a team ethic in pantomime.
Yeah.
And last year when I met Rob Rinder for the first time for the launch at the Hippodrome, he was so lovely to me. He'd been through all my videos on YouTube, and he was a complete fanboy, and it was his first panto, so he listened very carefully to any advice that I could give him. And anyone that saw that panto last year, flipping heck, he was just brilliant. And of course, I'm doing comedy. Who was the nervous one? Me. I'm doing comedy with Leslie Joseph, a legend, and we're doing quite a complicated comedy piece, and looking into each other's eyes and that. And actually hit me one night. I'm standing on stage with this British legend doing comedy, thinking, pinch yourself, Anthony.
You never
pinch yourself.
You never lose that, and that's because you're humble. And that's
I love what I do, and I love it when people that I adore appreciate what I do as well. That energy going backwards and forwards is fantastic. And I got to say, standing on the Hippodrome stage is one of the best places in the world to do comedy. I am blessed, man.
And when do you open?
It starts, I believe, on the 2nd of December.
I shouldn't have dropped that on you, should I?
No, you just threw it in there.
Yeah, okay.
I normally have a man that tells
Who's that
me,
woman in the third row just fall in the
I think we
stalls?
start on the 2nd, and we close New Year's Eve. 4 weeks of a dynamic pantomime, and with some wonderful surprises. Some of the special effects this year, out of this world. I'm quite scared because I'm taking part in a couple of them, but it's going to be a wonderful show, and it's the best panto ever, Cinderella.
All right. Well, you're going to be back in the saddle as well before all. It's going to be a heck of an autumn for you. So, and just to give us a little taster of that, that's, as we say, plenty of energy and plenty of happiness in that, isn't there, as well?
Certainly is. Shall I?
Shall you?
I will.
Why don't you? Get yourself over to our performance area. Please do it. It just about gives me time to thank all of our special guests today. It's been a ball. I've enjoyed it. I hope you have as well. So thanks very much indeed to the great voice and the great personality of Francesca Carly, to the Sorella Dancers, who were doing well in the confines of our studio here as well. And of course, the magnificent Andy Ford, who wherever he goes, he adds that little sprinkle. Oh no, it's not a little sprinkle, it's a massive dose of happiness. Off you go, Andy.
Bring me sunshine in your smile. Bring me laughter all the while. In this world where we live, there should be more happiness. Happiness, the greatest gift that I possess. I thank the Lord that I've been blessed with more than my share of happiness.
If you know what happiness is to you, because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like that's what you want.
I know a fat old policeman, he's always on our street. A fat and jolly red-faced man, he really is a treat. He's too kind for a policeman, he's never known to frown. And everybody says he is the happiest man in town.
Here's a little song I wrote. You might want to sing it note for note. Don't worry. Be happy.
Keep talking happy talk. Talk about things you like to do.